Welcome to the APM podcast. APM is the chartered body for the project profession. My name is Emma Vita and I'm the editor of Project, APM's quarterly journal and your host. In this podcast, I'm speaking to two project professionals who work in completely different sectors about how core project management skills combined with sector-specific knowledge can give you a career that is highly transferable from one industry to another. It's International Women's Day this week, so the fact that they are both successful women in project management is something to celebrate too. So let's meet Josie Harries and Anna Ustynyuk. Josie, a trained chemist, is Global Business Development Director at Domino Printing Sciences. They're the people who make and place the labels on products and packaging. While Anna is a project manager at Harries and Parrott, an international arts management agency, but I'll let them explain more about what they do themselves. Both are members of the APM Interest Network, Women in Project Management, or WIPM. Listen on for their advice on what it takes to get ahead as a project manager, no matter which sector you work in. So Josie, would you like to tell us a little bit about your role and the business you work for?
Yeah, sure. So I work for a company called Domino Printing Sciences, based just outside on the outskirts of Cambridge. And we manufacture industrial coding, marking and printing equipment that puts codes, data and graphics onto products across factories all over the world. So if you think things like expiry dates and QR codes, they're the kind of things that you'd come across every day that are the products that we make. My current role in the organisation is a Global Business Development Director. I've got a focus on how we approach our OEM business. So that's people who make original equipment, manufacturing bits of packaging equipment. This involves shaping a commercial strategy and defining how we do our projects to drive growth with this type of group of customers. I've been doing this since August last year, and before that, I led the program management office, where I launched and created the team to make sure that our R&D projects were being translated into new products. We got some launches and some successes out from those.
Thanks, Josie. That's really interesting. I'll come back to you and ask how you kind of jumped from program management up into the senior leadership team, because I know that that's something listeners will be really interested in, and also how you found yourself in project management in the first place. But thank you. Anna, tell us a bit about who you work for and your role.
I currently work for Harries and Parrott Group, which is an international arts management company, which oversees different areas of creative management. A main focus is arts management, so managing artists, classical musicians mainly, but not only classical. But we also do touring, international touring, publishing, a bit of education, and creative consultancy. My role is more client-facing. So I manage a portfolio of high-profile classical musicians, and I deliver everything they participate in, international performances, major events, recording productions. On a day-to-day basis, that means international logistics, everything related to visas, travel accommodation, but also contracts and communicating with a lot of external stakeholders who in our case would be promoters, venues, orchestras. And I think the main focus is to align everyone on the same vision while protecting artists' interests, because we are acting on their behalf, creative interests, but also financial interests. Before that, I lived and worked in Moscow, Russia, and I was part of a big theater festival. So it was a theater production. We had a very big festival in Moscow, which took place annually, and we would bring all different theater productions to Moscow from all over the world and Russia. And then we would tour best Russian performances all over the world. But my main role was the award ceremony, which was a pinnacle of the festival I just mentioned. And it was a huge production, 3 hours live show. And every year it was a completely new production. So it required me to be responsible for full life cycle of all steps of project management, starting from building creative idea through all the stages of production and finally getting it on stage and presenting our performance to the audience. It was quite exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, two really interesting worlds. You both have two very different backgrounds. So Josie, what's your background and how did you get into project management?
So I'm a trained chemist, and so I actually started my career in research and development. So I started off developing new products, so inks in this instance, and all of those projects were being run. And as I started to kind of get more technical responsibilities, I started becoming more accountable for the delivery of the developments, and then started doing all of the elements that we required to get a new product out into the market. So started becoming a bit of a project manager, and then a bit more program management as I was looking after the collection of all those projects that would be collectively delivering the new product portfolio into the marketplace. About 5 years ago, I was then asked to kind of use those skills that I'd kind of demonstrated in delivering some of those projects and programs to create the formal program management office, to really improve the efficiency and predictability of what we were delivering, and then to build project management as a core competency within new product development.
It was a gradual shift for you then towards project management. What was it about it that attracted you?
Um, I really like seeing the kind of projects deliver on time. So I think when you say you're going to do something, I really like to see that being done. And so I think that's kind of one of those things that kind of just gives a lot of satisfaction to seeing the outcomes be delivered. And then because I really liked working with different teams of people and could bring people together towards that kind of common goal, started becoming quite effective in getting stuff done. So yeah, just started really enjoying it.
And you're an OPM member, you're involved with the WIPM interest network as well. Did you find yourself on a kind of more formal than route towards professionalization as a project manager?
Yeah, so I haven't actually done any formal qualifications. I've kind of done the learning on the job, but I have used a lot of the resources that APM have in some of the tools and techniques that project managers do, and encourage others in the team that training is a good kind of place to start with things. So I've really kind of used a lot of those things for inspiration about how to build the tools and methodologies that we're going to use, and kind of bring that discipline into the team.
Anna, how did you? I understand you're trained concert pianist. So how have you found yourself moving over to project management?
So I was training as a pianist, and I was studying, and at the same time a new course opened up, and the name of the course, master course, was music business management. And I became very curious what it might give me, because I think by that time I naturally did a lot of things, among our events in the university, to make everything happen. Because if you want to have a concert or a performance, someone needs to organize this. So I just realized that I do it already. I help my peers to connect people, to do all the backstage things that you don't necessarily see on a day. And I did it quite well. So I decided why not to try this course. So then I did 2 courses at the same time, which was quite a nightmare. But then a friend of mine offered me a position at that very, very festival, theater festival. And that's how it started. So I first was just an administrator for the coming theater companies, which would come to Moscow. And then I did a bit of logistics, hotel and travel and visas. And then I think in a few months, they offered me a full-time position being a producer of the ceremony award, which was a big, big step and big challenge for me, because I was very young back then. And it was a lot of responsibility, but it was amazing, mind-blowing.
What is it about managing projects that you particularly like, Anna?
In our sector, it's never boring, I must say. So I just like this job to be very much alive. So you are challenged constantly, and you grow with every project, and you are also surrounded by so many absolutely brilliant, outstanding people. I'm not only talking about artists, I'm talking about producers, other project managers, technical teams. Everyone is so inspiring and so deeply involved in what they do, and they love it so much. So it's a great place to be, because it's constant inspiration. And I think also, since I work internationally, I'm really very happy to be able to communicate with so many people not even, it's not even about international work. It's about that you meet people from different backgrounds, cultural, and you see how differently people work around the world, different approaches.
What's kind of jumping out at me is that both of you mentioned the people side of project management. And there's a lot of discussion within the profession at the moment, because you can have the technical skills, but it's the people side of things that is often the difference between a successful and a project and one that isn't so successful. So I think what I'd like to get your opinions on are, like, what are the core project management skills that you need to be successful in your job? And perhaps we could start on the people side of things, if you don't mind. Josie, do you want to start our kind of discussion on that?
Yeah, I think that kind of stakeholder management's really essential. So kind of understanding the people in the team, the people you're working with, and how to balance kind of different needs and different perspectives that people might have during the project. So being able to talk to different people, talk their language, and bring them together around kind of the project goal kind of really does make all of that difference. And when I was doing things in the program management office, we did a lot of work on kind of getting good project management data in, getting tools, templates, and getting things into a database. And it was really interesting. I was sold that as that would make your project management life easy, because you could then focus on the kind of people side of project management, which is really where people are adding the value into the day life.
I'm going to pin you down, because what you said was really interesting, but I'm sure it's much harder to achieve in daily life than you say. It sounds brilliant, but what have been the key lessons you've learned about managing stakeholders, and also about, I guess, managing a project team? What have you learned over the years that you wish you'd known when you were starting out?
Yeah, I think there's kind of the needs that people have in their role. So what do they need to do in terms of their role and their accountability? So what do you need to do as part of your job? And then the needs that they have as a person as well. So you might be communicating with them slightly differently because of who they are as a person, and not because of the role. So spending a bit of time and getting to know people really does make life a lot easier, especially if you have to have those awkward conversations later on when things go off track. So I always spend enough time at the start getting to know people, building the trust, getting the team to feel like they're a collection of people who want to work together, so that when things get tough later on, it makes life a lot easier.
Sorry, how do you actually do that? Is it just like taking people out for a coffee, or just like having a chat around the office? I don't know how much time you spend remote working, because it is harder now that people aren't in the office the whole time. So that face-to-face kind of serendipitous conversations don't always happen. Have you got any tips about how to do what you suggest?
Yeah, I think we've been trying, because we all remote work. So actually we don't have that face-to-face opportunity so often. So people will be in the office occasionally, but very rarely are the whole team in doing things. And then some people are working in different countries contributing to the project as well. So it's really hard to get that together. So we've been trying different things over the time. So trying to have good kickoff meetings, trying to have brainstorming sessions, have kind of regular updates, have those kind of coffees and chats with people in kind of smaller groups. And I guess kind of just try to find a way to try and get it to work in a remote environment. Definitely haven't found all the answers to all the questions. So yeah, it's always an experiment on how to do things differently each time.
Okay, thanks, Josie. Anna, what would you say are the core kind of people-related project management skills that you need to have to be successful in a job like yours?
It's interesting because jobs are so different, but what Josie mentioned about stakeholder communication and stakeholder engagement is exactly what I wanted to bring. I completely agree that stakeholder management is most essential. I think in our sector, especially because you just need to translate from one language to another. I don't mean languages in a traditional, convenient way, but from creative language into languages which other stakeholders would understand.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I understand. So it's like for example, yeah, as you say, the artists and the productions and all of that language that surrounds that world, and then you've got your world of getting stuff done through projects. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I also think that you need to adjust your tone and your message to who speak with, because you will be speaking differently with artists and with some financial institution, government officials, or I don't know, contractors, vendors, and every group has its own priorities, and that's why it's so important to bring them onto the same page, but keeping in mind that everyone has different interests, and you need to balance this and balance their expectations as well. And yes, communication, as I said, adjusting your message so that you are completely sure that everyone really understands, and not only listens, but he understands what you mean and what you want from them, especially working internationally. We could even talk about, keeping in mind that you work with different time zones. And if you send your message in the evening, someone might get it at 5 a.m. in the morning and get very upset because we never switch off our phones, for example. But this is just an example. And I think another important core skill is risk management, which I would also put here, because we operate with live events mostly. And in live events, you don't really have, you cannot postpone it. You almost never can, delay a premiere. Of course you can, but it will be something extraordinary. So normally you operate in real time. And so risk management is something absolutely crucial, because you will not have the second chance to redo something. And the more things you are able to anticipate and mitigate, the better the outcome will be.
Josie, is that something? I saw you nodding your head then. Is risk obviously a kind of big factor that you need to manage as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I think risks and assumptions actually are kind of two areas that I would say are really important. So I think, as Anna said, kind of thinking about what risk could happen, and actually thinking in advance what you're going to do when they go wrong. So when you're in the panic when it goes wrong, you've kind of already got some strategies in place that you might bring into play. Although I've never found any of the risks have actually played out how I've thought they're going to play out, but at least it kind of gives you a bit of a starting point to not be in too much of a kind of crazy state with things. And then the assumptions, I think one of the big lessons that we've learned in our kind of R&D type projects is make sure you challenge those really early on. Try and get the team to kind of feel comfortable saying what are they assuming and what you just assuming is going to be happening in the project, because they're quite often the bits that...
Sorry, just could you give an example to bring that to life?
Yeah, so I think we people would make assumptions on how easy things are. So we'd quite often have our product managers will be the ones that are representing the customers, and they'll be like, oh, we'd like this new product to do this thing. And everyone just assumes it's going to be really easy. And then the technical team start looking into it, and they'll say, actually, this is a lot more harder than we think it's going to be. Something that you thought was going to be 2 months is going to take us 2 years. And if people don't feel comfortable kind of saying, actually, I don't really agree with the sort of the inputs that you're giving us, then you get into a lot of pain later on, because you start your project saying it's going to take 2 months and it's still going to take you 2 years, but no one ever brings it up at the start.
That's a really interesting point, because that's sort of taps into sort of optimism bias, and that we are naturally more optimistic about how much we can achieve and how quickly we can do it. I was interested to pick up on something you just said around people being able to speak up about these things. So to kind of mitigate risk, I guess it's about understanding clearly as possible what's going on and what could present itself as a problem, and then if anything happens, knowing that people feel okay about raising it. So have you got any advice to people to project managers or project leaders who want to ensure, I guess it's a project team culture where people feel empowered to do that? Is there anything you've learned, or any advice you pass on?
So actually one of the program managers in my team, someone called Lucy, who it was great at doing this. She was really good at kind of bringing people together in a safe space, and she put a lot of time and energy into developing those personal relationships with people, so that she could kind of tell if they were not feeling comfortable, and if they didn't bring it up during the session, she'd then go and have a conversation afterwards and say, I can see you were feeling a bit uneasy with that. Do you want to tell me a bit more about it? And then she would be their voice for them as well. We deal with quite a lot of technical people as well. So I guess stereotypically a bit more introverted than some other people may be. So found some of the online tools that you can use. So online whiteboards are great, where people can just put Post-it notes up and don't have to say anything. They can just put a Post-it note with what they're worried about. And then someone will take it seriously and do something about it.
That's a great piece of advice. I haven't heard that before. That's interesting. Can I ask you about the language you use as well? So, I mean, you do have a kind of technical background, so I'm assuming you can understand a lot of the kind of technical aspects of the work, but no project manager can be expected to be an expert on everything that's going on with the projects. What are your thoughts on the language of project management and not necessarily being a kind of subject expert in everything?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've seen kind of quite challenging for some of our project managers in the team, because most of them have actually come in from a technical background. So quite often they've done the work before they then manage the projects. And so trying to keep them out of the details is quite often the big challenge, because they understand the language too much when people are talking about it. And so trying to get them to understand that they're not the technical expert. There's other people who are playing that role, and they need to just be great at project management. So kind of really focus on the planning, the risks, the communications, and make sure they keep the team aligned so they can keep their technical experts free to focus on actually getting the work done and doing what they're best at as well. So I've actually tried breaking some of those kind of barriers down by putting people into projects where they're not an expert in the area. So actually all of a sudden they're having to deal with project teams where they're talking a different technical language to things. So all of a sudden you're out of your comfort zone. And so all you're doing is then relying on your project management skills to get things done.
Well, are they happy about that? Was that must be quite a big shock to the system, and then figuring out how you go forward with it?
Yeah, so I think we kind of set up a bit of a community within the project managers, so people could kind of share their experiences, and if they were having some challenges, they could come together and ask for a bit of advice and have kind of some sessions together to talk about how they've dealt with different problems in the past as well. Particularly as we started getting more involved in projects that did a lot more software development. A lot of the project managers come from quite a traditional project management background, and then software engineers really want to work in a really agile way. So blending those two worlds to do what you needed to do to make sure you're predictably delivering, but giving people the flexibility to work with agility was quite a challenge.
Any lessons you learnt from that about how to get that right?
So that was all about language, and actually trying to get people to stop fixating on the words that were being used and try and understand the spirit of the conversation, and understand that all everyone wanted was to get the work done well, and get a product out to the customers. So yeah, we had a lot of time where people would get really fixated on particular terms, and it just kind of completely blocked the activity that was going on. So even using the word project became something that we kind of had to shy away from. So we were doing lots of initiatives for a while.
Initiatives, I like that. Are there any other core kind of project management skills that you really need to be successful at in order to deliver a project well?
Yes, of course. I think main would be you need exceptional scheduling skills and time management, because it is a high paced, very intense environment with a lot of things being on fire constantly, and also you're constantly managing creative chaos, if I may, because artists, they don't necessarily they do not operate in business terms. They are led by inspiration, so you cannot fit them within normal timelines and deadlines, although you have, because you are bridging them and reality. So I think you are the one who is the main stabilizing force, and you need this exceptional scheduling techniques, time management, and you need to optimize constantly and streamline everything, communication, all the processes, so that you move faster and the more efficient, as efficient as you can, but at the same time, never at the expense of artists' trust and artistic integrity and quality of the final product. So I think this is the most essential thing.
Josie, what are the biggest kind of project management challenges that you face in your work?
I think it's kind of interesting, kind of Anna talking about working with the people she does with kind of being creative, because actually lots of people who are in R&D roles are creative, but obviously in a slightly different way. So being able to find that balance between long-term innovation where people just want to go and explore, don't want to be bound by any kind of timelines or constraints, and then being able to bring that in and rein that in when actually you need to start thinking about when are you going to be delivering is a real challenge, I think, for the project managers. And I think being able to deal with that kind of ambiguity and uncertainty that kind of starts off with some of the technical projects is really challenging. And I remember having a conversation with someone in my team where they were just telling me how I just couldn't possibly understand. They couldn't be bound by any time. They just needed to go off into the lab and explore. And how dare I ask them for like milestones and all of this for the plans? And I was like, well, just tell me by this date if you can do it or not. And you have to sort of balance things in that way.
And does that work for you? So kind of being open to accommodate their needs and their way of thinking, is that how you would approach it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of recognizing where you are in a project and what kind of lever you need to be pulling at one time. So there are those bits at the kind of the fuzzy front end when people are trying to work out how to get stuff done, where you need to give people the opportunity to go and explore, but not get stuck down any rabbit holes. And so I think it's a real skill to kind of open things out and then get people to close things down to start saying, actually, now this is what we're actually going to be doing. And then at some point you need to say, actually, we're now going into delivery mode. So we need to now start thinking about making those commitments, hitting those timelines and actually getting things done when we said we were going to get them done.
I'd like to ask both of you, what are the most important lessons you've learned around delivering successful projects? Anna, what have you, if you could pass on one piece of advice about how to deliver a project successfully in the broadest sense, what would you say?
My main thing is no assumptions, never assume anything, and verify everything. And I learned it hard way.
How do you mean? That sounds interesting. Can you give us the story?
So I mean that we have this proverb in my mother tongue: trust but verify. And it's not really about. It's not that I don't trust people, but I am the one who is responsible for the final result. So if someone tells me that they've done it a million times, or if something has worked for many years, I would still check it. I would check all the dependencies. I would check all the technical specifications. I would ask millions of questions, and sometimes people don't really like it. But again, I learned hard way that something might not work when you least expect it. So, and I think that's again because we deal with live events, and if it doesn't work in real time on stage, there is no way to redo it. That's why it is so important. So yeah, I think that would be it.
Yeah. And what about you, Josie? Any key kind of project management lessons you've picked up?
I think it's understanding kind of the role accountabilities that go with things. So actually, I'm going to probably say the opposite to Anna, and probably because we're in an environment where actually things can go wrong and you've got time to do something about them. Is, I think, challenging those assumptions is really important, but also making sure people feel accountable for their part of the project management jigsaw as well.
How do you do that? How do you actually make that happen in practice?
So we spent a lot of time actually defining kind of some key roles and kind of rolling those out across the project. So we created the concept of a project leadership team where there were kind of key roles that people would be stepping into in addition to them actually doing some of the work as well. So you may be the technical lead on the project, which means you'd have certain accountabilities that would go alongside it. So we tried to make it really clear what that meant and what was expected from you. And then also working with kind of the people managers, so the team leaders, to make sure they were understanding that they were accountable for delivering the tasks and making sure the tasks got done so that all the project could come together, because there were lots of different streams all happening at the same time.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Anna? Any key other key project management lessons you'd pass on?
I would still talk about building relationships because I think it's so important. It's not communication. It's not soft skill in this industry. I think it's an infrastructure you work in, and it is so important, and you never know when you will need this particular person again. And the more your network is, the better. And it's, in a way, building these relationships is risk mitigation. And I just wanted to follow up on what Josie said about responsibility and accountability. I think the main difference here is that creative talents, they are accountable for creative outcome. They are brilliant in a different way. They don't need to think about all these sort of things, risks, schedules, because they need to have this mental space to create beautiful pieces of art. And that's why you, as a project manager, and maybe a technical director as well, that's who are responsible for the final outcome, in terms of that everything runs smoothly. But you cannot put this responsibility onto creative people, because it's not really their responsibility. At the same time, you don't control, they are not involved in what you control, but you don't control creative talent as well. And this is another specific, you don't control the creative outcome in these projects.
It's really interesting, Anna, on that one, because I think a lot of the time that we spend in our project teams is trying to make the team feel like they're a team. So actually people would be talking to people about risks all the time. And so I'm wondering whether that's taking up a lot of mental capacity for some of the technical experts who should be thinking about other things, when actually we're asking them to think about all these risks that might not happen. So yeah, might take that one back into the team.
Okay, that's good to hear. Is part of what you need to do, is it to sell the benefits of project management? Because there are project managers who, I mean, you set up a program office, Josie, in a place that never had one. And I've spoken to other people where they've had to formalise project management within the organisation. And often they can be met with some skepticism or hostility, because you're seen as people who might complicate things or get people involved in horrendous Gantt charts, when in fact what the people I've spoken to who've been successful are the ones who are just say, I'm going to make your life easier. You don't need to worry about these things. So these are the benefits I'll give you as a project manager. Is that something that you've needed to do or thought about?
Yeah, definitely found when the program management office initially got created, there was quite a lot of resistance to it. And all the things you've just said is they heard the term project management and assumed that was going to be more admin, more hoops they had to jump through, more process that was going to get implemented. And so to try and overcome that, we kind of really focused on having just enough process and kind of being a little bit sneaky about bringing some processes in. So the project managers would be getting data from the project teams without sitting them down in front of a big Gantt chart or massive Excel spreadsheet. So they'd kind of go and try and collect the data secretly, rather than have these big meetings where you'd be going through all of those things. And we were definitely trying to sell it on the value that good project management brings. So if you can get the project managers doing their job, so what's asked of them, you can actually start seeing that delivery starts going up. Conversations that needed to happen early on start to happen early on, and then stress is reduced for like the whole team. So kind of found after a few runs of a few projects, people started getting on board with it pretty quickly, because they saw it actually made their life easier. And we actually even got to the point where people started asking for project managers to start getting involved in projects, because they saw it as someone who was helping those wheels keep on turning.
That must have made you very happy to have that.
It was, but then you start having conversations about where is a project manager needed, and it's project managers are not task managers. And so if you're just doing some tasks, then people can just get on and do that themselves. So trying to say the project manager's value is when you've got these very kind of complex projects where multiple things are coming together across different functions that all need to happen at the same time. It's not just about kind of managing someone's day-to-day tasks.
And so that kind of ties into kind of scope creep, because that's a common problem as well. Have you got any advice about how to manage that? Is it just being very upfront about what you can and cannot help with?
Yeah, I think it's definitely saying this is what we think the role is, and this is what we're going to be doing. And then if someone asks something to be done that's not as part of that, being very transparent about not doing it. I always have conversations with the project managers that it's better to have an awkward conversation early. So if someone says, I'd like you to do this thing and you don't think you should be doing it, have that awkward conversation early, because it's going to be a horrible conversation later on when someone's assumed that you've been doing all this stuff for them that you haven't actually been doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anna, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I actually wanted to add about the scope creep, because I think this is another quite challenging but different thing to talk about. So when somebody, I mean, your creative talent brings you an absolutely brilliant idea, 2 weeks before the show, and everything is already settled, budget, you don't have time, but you just simply cannot say no, because you understand that it might elevate the whole performance, and that's how inspiration works. So I think it is essential in my role that I find the way to do that. It's not always easy, but scope is very much fluid in creative arts, and I think I always just keep it in mind. So probably I have some contingency plans for that, and I might reduce something else, and I might find the ways to make it work. And I need to balance it with time constraints and budget constraints. So I would probably reduce how much something else costs, manufacturing, or I would probably cut some other pieces entirely. But I will be able to fit this new idea into my schedule and into my budget if we all understand that this is really important.
Josie, I'm particularly interested in asking you about any career advice, because you're a kind of project manager, program manager who's moved into a broader business role as part of the senior leadership team. And this is really an ambition for the profession, that project management as a career can really set you up to be successful in a broader business capacity and at a higher level. So 2 questions really. What advantages has a career in project management brought to you, and how have you managed to step up into a kind of broader business role? And any advice, 3 questions, sorry, and any advice you'd pass on to people who have the ambition to do that too?
Yes, I think the nice thing about projects is you see how different bits of the business work and how different bits of the businesses work together, and how it starts to fit. And then because you're working with different people in different areas, you start understanding how to manage those different stakeholders who've got those different needs. So I think learning how to set that clear direction, which is what you're doing in your projects, how you start kind of bridging any of those silos that always exist within any big organization, and then start building that environment where people actually really enjoy being part of the project team, they feel confident and supported, I think has really set me up for the leadership roles that I've been moving around within the organization. So really kind of learning how to lead disparate teams that don't directly report to you, so that they can pull together around a common goal is really key.
So you've got that kind of broad perspective, but what are those new skills you need to develop or understand that you need to attain in order to move into a broader business role?
I think I've spent quite a lot of effort personally kind of building my network in the organization and getting people to see the kind of things I'm good at doing. So putting kind of my skill set forward. I'm someone who really likes creating structure within organizations, and when sort of a transformation needs to happen, that's where I really enjoy sort of spending my time. So getting people to see how I think, how I do things, how I execute on project activities has been really important as part of kind of moving up and moving in the role. And then over the past couple of years, I've always taken the mantra kind of just say yes when an opportunity arises. So even if it seems really daunting, just kind of step into it and embrace it. And nothing has gone, touch wood, terribly wrong for me so far. So the role I'm in now, I don't have any commercial experience. It's a bit of the business that I don't understand, but really keen to learn and really keen to expand and grow my skills and knowledge of how things work.
Do you know what? That's really interesting. So it's International Women's Day this week, and you're both great role models of women who are successful in project management in very different sectors. But Josie, what you were just saying then about saying yes. So I know there's been research done about women are more reluctant to say yes to opportunities that they're not sure about, whereas men can be overconfident and just jump in and do it. I mean, actually, I'll ask both of you, how important is it to celebrate International Women's Day, but also how important is it to acknowledge that you are a female in this environment, and has that been anything that's been beneficial or disadvantageous to either of you, and any advice to women who want to get ahead in the sectors you work in? So again, I'm sorry, that's like 3 questions in one, but I don't know who'd like to go first.
I'm happy to go first. I think, yes, in a nutshell, it is very important to celebrate it, but not as a symbolic gesture. I think it's just another opportunity to raise awareness about this, because we still have they still have this representation problem, and the more visible we make it, the more we talk about this, I think the better. But at the same time, the real work, of course, happens during the rest of the year, 364 days. And when I joined WIPM, I think I was just so inspired by examples of women from different industries leading great projects, thinking strategically and supporting each other, and learning from each other and sharing experience, that I just realized how important it is to feel supported. And sometimes it's not even about opportunities, but it's about being able to share your concerns and some problems that you might have on the way.
Something like APM draws people from so many different sectors and backgrounds that often you can face similar problems, but people have found different ways of tackling them, which you never have thought about. It's just because they come with very different perspective on things.
Yeah, agree. I think even the conference that APM and WIPM holds every March, I think it's on the 6th of March this year. I attended it last year, and it was absolutely amazing how many women come there from completely different sectors. But we see that the problems we are facing, they are pretty much the same, and it's so important to share, to network, and to say it out loud what you are dealing with, and find support.
Okay, thanks, Josie. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I agree that I think it's really nice to have kind of International Women's Day to kind of give that visibility to people. So to kind of really put those role models into the spotlight, so that people can see that there are people who are kind of really pushing the boundaries and kind of driving change and challenging the status quo. But also agree with Anna that it does need to be that kind of all year round activity. So not just action on that one day. And also agree with Anna around the work that WIPM does to kind of really put kind of women in the spotlight in project management. I think it's really important to have that consistent message that's coming out. But I think International Women's Day is great to actually have that kind of official day where you can put the spotlight really brightly on people.
Okay, thanks. Finally, I wanted to ask you about the future of project management. So do you kind of more personally, do you envisage a future where project management does become even more transferable, so that you would feel happy about jumping into a completely different sector? I think can be challenging to people, and I think that perhaps is going to be the future of project management, because there's a desperate kind of skills shortage for kind of project managers in every field. But just it might be nice just to wrap up by asking you what you think the future holds, and do you think that you would ever jump into a completely different sector?
Yeah, so I think for me, so I've done some talks previously about how being a scientist sets you up really well for a kind of a career in project management, and how all the things I learned when I was training as a chemist basically set you up to do project management. I can see doing other talks now about how coming from a project management background really sets you up for senior leadership positions as well. So you can see how all of those skills and people management and all of that really helps with things. What I've kind of been seeing in our company is we're doing lots of change. We've got lots of change we need to make in the organization to really drive growth and sell more kind of products to our customers. And I think project management's really key for that, because when you're actually trying to do something different and bringing together cross-functional groups of people that don't always work together is really important to kind of overcome those real traditional hierarchical functional structures that often exist. And so I think if you want to deliver things more efficiently, more predictably, and doing things a bit quicker as well, I think having projects and project management really is key to doing that. But I can also see the role of project managers changing quite a lot as well. So a lot more with all the kind of AI and all the kind of automations that are coming through. You can see that a lot of the admin tasks that people traditionally associate with project management becoming a lot more automated. And so project managers then need to start focusing on the more human side of project management. And we've talked about that quite a lot today already. So pulling people together, keeping them motivated and making sure kind of stay focused on delivering those outcomes will become the kind of the key to success for a really strong project manager.
Josie, that's amazing. It's almost as though I put the words I wanted to convey into your mouth. That's fantastic. Thank you. Anna, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I completely agree with Josie because we live in such uncertain times, and not only with technology transforming and AI and everything Josie mentioned, but also geopolitical. You basically you never know what will be tomorrow. So the period of time you can plan ahead, getting shorter and shorter, I guess. So it's just natural that organizations are trying to build teams around very specific goals rather than these heavy structures which are hardly being moved. And I do also agree that all that can be done by AI will be done by AI in terms of reporting, tracking, all the scheduling and planning. So all these technical skills, I think, will become less important. What is still very much important, and what AI cannot do yet, I hope will not be able to do, is a human connection and all the communication strategies and ability to bring all the people together, find the common ground, and leadership, being able to lead people towards one common goal, I think will be even more and more important. So everything related to human connections, that's where the future is.
Thanks, Hannah. That's a kind of nice, upbeat way to end this. And I just wanted to thank both of you so much for your advice and insight into both of your worlds. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That just leaves me to thank Josie and Anna for joining us, and to you for listening to the APM podcast. Don't forget to look out for more episodes or to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. We'd welcome you to get in touch with your comments, feedback and suggestions by emailing us at apmpodcast@thinkpublishing.co.uk. Spotify users, please do also leave us your comments. This podcast has been brought to you by APM, the chartered body for the project profession. For more information on APM, visit apm.org.uk.